fact, most of the things that we call strategy are simply being, tactical reactions. So, giving you an example from chess. So it's we used to say that tactics is knowing what to do when there is something to do, while strategy is knowing what to do when there is nothing to do. So basically, strategy means that you can look forward and you can start shaping the game the way you think fit. Because to be a real strategist is actually it's to see the consequences of your current decisions. It's not planning the long-term future, what I will do there, but to understand how what you're doing now will impact the future. Again, the way that will benefit. So when we're talking about decision making, and I've been giving lectures and seminars after I left professional chess 9 years ago on these topics. I had more than 100 appearances on different events, from corporate seminars and business conferences to university events. I try to share not just my experience of playing chess, but moreover my experience of analyzing the decisions I made throughout my chess career. That's why I think chess is a unique tool of helping you to understand how to look inside and just to understand the nature of the moves you made, the good moves, the bad moves, and to come up with improvements for the future. So someone calculated that during my chess career, I made 89,642 moves. So each move is a decision. Some of them are trivial because it's like opening moves and you move forward, and sometimes you capture the opponent's piece. Some moves are really simple. Some are more complicated. Some are not trivial at all. Some of these decisions, were opening the new horizons. But each decision, has its rationale. And I think there are certain misunderstandings about decision-making process that I would like to reveal again. This is entirely my point of view, but I'm trying to base it on my chess experience. I don't know how often you are attending similar conferences, but I know from my own experience that many of motivational speakers, they are always offering some sort of an advice. And people always, in exchange asking you for a tip. This is a classical, some American question, give me the tip. How can I get some piece of information to improve my decision-making formula? How can I come back home, having a piece of wisdom scribbled on my notes? Now it's no longer, I guess it will be on your notebook or on your iPhone. I was always, resisting this algorithm, because in my mind, the whole idea of receiving one tip, one piece of wisdom for the entire audience, contradicts the uniqueness of the process of making decisions. We're all different. That goes without saying. We have different algorithms of making decisions and different views on events that are happening in our lives. It's as if we are getting sick and everybody is asking for the same medicine, the same treatment. Naturally, before you go before you receive any treatment, you have to go through the tests. And the decision-making process is as unique as fingerprints or DNA. So that's why before you receive an advice, which might be complimentary, but might be not very useful, or even could have a negative effect, if it doesn't fit your own algorithm of making decisions, you have to understand who you are. And this is the beginning of improving your own personality. And you should not be afraid of finding out that you are too aggressive or to the contrary or too defensive. There's nothing wrong of being one or another. What is very important is actually to be very honest with you and just not to think of yourself better than you are. Because everybody has certain advantages and disadvantages. We have strengths and weaknesses. We're all human beings. No one is perfect. We are created this way. What is very important is we understand exactly the proportion of different character traits or character factors inside us. And we are not going to play against these characteristics. What I try to give you an idea of what I mean. It's just one of the graphic examples. So if you have, imagine for a moment, a medieval battleground, and you have two armies, roughly even in strength, but having a totally different composition inside. One army has a very strong, dominant cavalry. Another army has weaker cavalry, but very strong archers. Now, what would be the outcome of the battle? Of course, it will depend on the quality of the commander, but naturally, the terrain, the landscape, could have a decisive factor. If the battle is taking place on the valley, the cavalry will have a huge advantage. If the battle is now pushed to the mountains or hills, archers will become dominant. So, same as with us. So, as I say, some of us are more aggressive. I mean, I used to be a very aggressive chess player. You know, seeing the big picture and not being so good in the micromanagement or just, playing more cautious. So other players are more cautious and just, they try to slow down the process and just to play more positional. Both can win. Same as in football. Brazil was synonymous to the brilliant play and they won World Cup 5 times. Italy is on the opposite side. Catenaccio defensive style. They won 4 times. You could play like Federer, just strong serve, rushing to the net, or you can play like Nadal from the back line. Both could be number 1. It's all about recognizing your strengths, your weaknesses, opponent's strengths, opponent's weaknesses, and creating the environment that benefits you and naturally diminishes the strengths of the opposition. What it requires is a very precise analysis of what's happened in the game or in the games prior to this moment. Now, that brings us to another interesting issue, which I think has a psychological background. If we play the match, the game, the business deal, the political campaign, and we lost, no doubt, we, kick ourselves in the head, go back home, and we analyze the game. Because we know we made a mistake, because we lost. It goes without saying. Now, let's say we won. Okay, after we're celebrating the victory, so what are we going to do? My advice, we go and analyze again. Because the game we won is nothing else but the game where our opponent made the last mistake. From my own experience, I can tell you that there is no such a thing as perfect game. I analyzed extensively games. I played in a World Championship match with Anatoly Karpov, arguably highest quality you can imagine. Even the best games, played by 2 strongest players in the world, always contain either mistakes or inaccuracies. So what happens in the game you won? It means there were mistakes on both sides, but you were lucky, you were better at this moment. You were not the one to make the final mistake. But as we know that there are always more losers than winners, everybody who lost the game is going back home and analyzing. So that's why while you are celebrating, being at, on the top of on the crest of the wave, others are working hard. And unless you do the same analysis, find your own mistake that you made somehow, and for the next game, for the next battle, for the next campaign, for the next business deal, you will be again at the cutting edge. If you don't do that, you will be grilled, because others will find it and will meet you with more sophisticated weapons, sophisticated structures, business structures, more just advanced ideas. So that's something that's easy to say, hard to make, hard to follow, because it's complacency. We're humans. We believe it's because we're great. We can hardly believe that, we also made mistakes. And being very relentless with yourself, this is one of the secrets of staying on the top for so long. I was on top for 20 years because for me the game of chess was not just about winning or losing. Okay, most of the winning, of course, because I was there. So, but it was always about making the difference. Making the difference means that you have to find something new. You have to push the horizons. You have to expand the vision. And you always have to surprise your opponents. But surprising your opponents means that, not surprise yourself, but you always look inside. Because I'm a great believer that the secret of success is inside of you. It's hard to imagine how much potential each of us has. And it's hard to imagine how much is wasted. Because, again, we are complacent, we have other great things to do, and sometimes we don't have enough confidence to believe how good we are and how good we could become if we're really working hard. So working hard is another trivial concept. We hear time and again, he's not very talented, but he's working hard. I think, it's oxymoron, it's nonsense. Because working hard is also talent. It's a talent, and not everybody can have it, but it's if you work hard, you're already talented. So you may be not as fast as your competitor, but hard work always compensates for that. There's also, some sort of mystical connection that I cannot explain in scientific terms, but since it had happened to me many times, I believe it's true. I'm talking about the investment, in hard work and the benefits throughout the process. Very often in the past, I've been working hard for my next match, for next game, analyzing some ideas. We're talking about 25, 30 years ago, no computers. Just, working hard, making notes, ready for the game. It didn't happen. So my ideas I prepared, they didn't materialize on the board. But somehow, as I said, it's mysteriously, I got not lucky, but I won the game because it worked out in my favor. So I found some other good ideas during the game. It's like, it's okay. I went to the game with huge expectations that my great idea could work, but something else happened, again positive. So there was some sort of the balance, I worked a lot, and eventually it paid off. Ironically, later on, 20, 30 years later, while analyzing these games with computers, I could actually find out that these ideas, or not all, but some of them that I prepared, and I was so proud in 1985, they were not as good. It's as if I thought I was heading for the battle with a magic sword, but in fact it was a broken knife. But because I worked so hard, it paid off. I don't know why, but again, since it's happened so many times, I believe it's a proven fact. So that's why, if you work hard, but the ideas you prepared, they haven't brought an immediate benefit, you shouldn't be desperate. It will happen. Somehow you will be paid off for your hard work. Then, since we're talking about not only strategy but also leadership, I want just to go to more sort of global issues, because I just heard now your country will be joining the Asian market with 6 countries, yes. So, which means there will be bigger competition. The rules will be changing. What's very important, though, we still do the rules. That's the the competition means that you have to become more creative. But it also means that you have to go beyond the known. Let me just try to explain it, because when we develop a new concept, when we do something that is important for us, for our business, for our country. So, there are two ways to move forward. We can do things incrementally, which we do most of the time. You may call it a horizontal development, which is very, very important because, you have to come up with technology and bring it to other people and just, more people are involved. So it definitely helps to create a better environment. But it doesn't help us to move forward. Forward means vertical. Now, what's the difference? This vertical means risk. Now, it's nice to expand things horizontally. But if you stay there for too long, there might be a problem. The problem is that, you are getting too comfortable, too complacent, which has been happening with human race over the last few decades. We are getting too complacent because, we don't want to leave the zone of comfort. Okay, it's probably more of an issue in the United States and Europe than in this part of the world, but still, this is something that you have to remember because someone who is less complacent will always have a competitive advantage. Yes, you have to take risk, and this is a big issue. But true leadership is about assessing risk and moving forward. Because if you avoid any risk, you will eventually lose on benefits. Trying to reduce the risk and keep the benefits will not work unless you have a printing machine and you can print money, which is not going to happen in your case. So we know what countries can afford it. But you have to think about something far more dynamic, far more aggressive. And I believe there are many opportunities to change the world. The world is full of opportunities. Of course, when you take the risk, you may lose. It happens. And I think this is one of the fundamental issues that, hurts the new generation from almost from the kindergarten and from the elementary schools. We're teaching kids that failure is unacceptable. No, nobody likes to fail. I hate losing. But the problem is not about losing. The problem is denying failure as the legitimate part of the process. The fear of failure is a recipe for disaster. Because the moment you want to eliminate the risk or to minimize it, means that you are dramatically narrowing your opportunities to succeed. The rule of the free market is that higher the risk, bigger the benefits. And trying to reduce the risk and calling failure just a failure ignores the fact that failure in most of the cases is a way to succeed. Naturally, somebody can fail. Even more people can fail than we want. But we are as a group, as a nation, as a human race, will eventually benefit. And I hear all the time that, okay, this talk is not very timely because we're not living in the era of great exploration. No, it's everything, it just was already opened, explored, so we can only do some incremental stuff. I'm not so sure. Actually, we are ignoring some great opportunities that are offered to us by modern technologies. Just think for a moment that today, flying a manned expedition to Mars is much less risky than to cross the Atlantic in the time of the Columbus and Magellan. The chances of coming back are much higher. We still don't want to do it because it's too risky, correct? Maybe 50-50. But this is, how can you reject these great challenges? How you can deny human race an opportunity to go up or down, up to the skies, down to the oceans, expanding, because physical expansion was also always a key element. And when I hear that, there's no need to take risks because it's all done. I always think about the great moments in the history of our civilization, like, you know, space exploration and the moment when Americans landed on the moon on July the 20th, 1969. So that's arguably was one of the greatest achievements. Now, the trivia question that always, you know, just, you know, it stuns the audience that was not aware of that. At the day when Americans landed on the moon, what was the entire computing power of NASA? The entire computing power of NASA. If you saw pictures, you could see the big halls, you know, 100 times this size, with computers, you know, size of this room, you know, all, you know, blinking with their lamps, you know. So what was the entire computing power of NASA? Entire computing power of NASA.
iPhone.
Size of one iPhone. That's it. It's hard to imagine that having 128 kilobytes was enough to come up with a software that was sufficient to calculate the trajectory of flying from here to there and coming back safely. So ironically is, you know, I just thought at one point that if NASA had more computing power in 1969 and could calculate the risks of losing the crew there, and probably every computer simulation will tell you that the risk probably was at least 25%, if not more, of losing the crew. I doubt very much that any US president would authorize the action. Because politically it's too risky. That again, you know, just there is risk. But without taking a risk, nothing will happen. And when people today are arguing that the space exploration is a waste of money, I always want to ask them, when is the last time they made a call on their mobile device? Because that's the result of the space race. GPS, internet, everything that we do today, wireless technologies, result of the space race. It's all invented in the 60s. All you have today here is just commercial applications of the great ideas that came from the 50s and 60s. Again, for you're quite young, most of you here, and everybody has this device from very early days. And I want just one of the messages I want you to bring back home, that with this device, with this computing power, you have two choices. You can throw the man to the moon and bring him back to Earth safely, or you can keep throwing birds at pigs. And don't tell me you don't play Angry Birds. It's too tempting to avoid. The world is waiting for you to make tough choices. And you are the young leaders, and I have no doubt that, you know, you will make the right choices. I cannot tell that everybody will succeed. Because again, it's the free market. It's a free world. So you can succeed, you can fail. But if you're afraid to fail, you will definitely will. And if you are brave enough to move forward, you have a great chance of succeeding. And if you fail, maybe your teammate will succeed. And eventually, I'm sure, you know, the risk that you are willing to take will benefit this group, you know, the company you're working for, your country, and eventually the human race. And I think this is also, you know, some sort of misconception that people think about decisions being divided in categories. The decision about war and peace, or decision about family affairs, they all go through the same process. Okay, the magnitude. But the magnitude does not affect the entire process. And it doesn't take a bigger physical effort. Whether you make a decision about, you know, God forbid, starting the war, or, you know, making a mega business deal, or, you know, organizing, you know, a birthday celebration. You go through the process analyzing material factors, time factors, quality factors, but the effort behind it is the same. So which, brings me to the sort of to the conclusion of this short presentation, is that if you want to be the leader, you have to be brave enough to make decisions. To lead is to decide. Because otherwise, you will follow. There are many followers and fewer leaders. But the world today and the future of the world is shaped by those who are brave enough to lead. Good luck. Thank you.
We'd like to open the floor actually to some questions and answers.
Happy to.
So
If
anyone?
there are questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, we have someone. Okay. Great.
The young leaders are not as brave as men of my generation.
Okay, can someone
I would
pass
appreciate the microphone.
Yeah.
The sound doesn't travel that far.
All right,
So
the
I think
microphone
it's
is
something
being
is
handed.
with the. We have to use technology.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sir, is it on?
Perhaps you can introduce a short introduction, your name and where you're from and your question. Thank you.
My name is Reggae. I'm a practicing lawyer. I'm in the employ of Jaman. In a way. Sir, I understand you have been around here for a few days. I'm sure you have met some of our leaders. You have met the middle order people, and in the street perhaps, certainly our young students and other young people. What in your view, sir, are our strengths as a people and as a country that you think we should cherish and develop on, and also maybe some of our weaknesses which we should try to avoid or banish? I think you would be in a very good position to decipher these things more than else. Thank you, sir.
I think you overestimate my knowledge of the country. So I met quite a few people, and I went around, not as much as I wanted. And I do not have, of course, enough hard data to make an analysis, and naturally, this very short format of Q&A, doesn't offer me an opportunity to go on just with all thoughts on the issue. But I always react when I visit countries, and I visited quite a few of them, so not yet 100, but close to that. I'm trying to evaluate, it's not very scientific, the energy inside the country, the drive for change. And the numbers that we heard today, so I heard, because you knew about them. So we just basically confirmed what I could sense, that there is the drive for change. And that's the most important thing. Because we have access to the same technology today. So you cannot compete with special information that you will get a split of a second earlier than your competitor. What is very important, that you are not willing to accept status quo as something that will stay forever. So you want to challenge the existing powers, you want to challenge the existing order, and that's the recipe for success. So I like the drive in this part of the world, and I could feel here in Malaysia, visiting several conferences and talking to people, especially to young people, that there is such a drive. Which again, it's the providing you have a good plan, and I'm not here just to tell you how to lay down the strategy, but you have right components to become very successful. It's like a Lego constructor. You have all the details, right details, but you don't have the instruction. So it's up to you actually to come up with a plan. But you have all the components here, and definitely a desire to succeed.
Yeah, there's a gentleman over there, back there. Can you pass him the microphone? Thank you.